Let's do a quick audio check, make sure everything's working. Sounds like it is. That means I can stop streaming that stuff. How's everybody doing today? Only thing I don't have up. Gee, Nate. Look, your chair is empty. And everything is relatively organized there. AKA, I haven't screwed it up too much yet. I just want to see if I can get... Somehow, I had an audio monitor on here. Now it's not showing up. I gotta turn this over. Okay. There we go. At least I know the audio is going through that. Still don't know why I can't make this actually full screen, but no, who cares? Another day, a rainy day here in Pennsylvania. Move that around so I can see. Oh, man. Oh, okay. You're going to make her drive the. Cool. We get a fancy car to drive around it. Awesome. Glad to know, though, that you're going to be back up here this weekend. So I've got a fun project that I'm doing today. You notice here on the anvil cam, there's a bunch of antlers laid out. And essentially, I don't do many antler handles, but when I do, there's a couple of little rules that I follow or criteria that I follow. And the most important one is that the antler is big enough. Um, not to knock Pennsylvania whitetail at all, but being here in Pennsylvania, uh, there tends to be enough guys that they get a deer and they're like, oh man, can you make me a knife with this for this antler? And the problem is that there's an awful lot, at least here in the eastern part of the state. There's quite a few smaller racks, I guess I could say. They're not monster, you know, they're not elk style or mule deer style antlers. But one way that I check this, and now this piece was already dog-eared for something else, but essentially I just take a piece of string and I go all the way around and pinch it off where the two pieces meet. And I just lay it down, and that piece right there falls into just like the bare minimum. This is the smallest around piece. You can see it here in the camera. That has a circumference of 3¼ inches. So that's about the smallest piece that I would like to use for a handle. And the reason behind that is the comfort. If it's too small, if it's too skinny, it's just not going to have any place for your hand to find purchase. So that being said, I have a excellent piece being straightened right now, and I'm gonna have to do. I think I'm gonna have to end up doing a Patreon video on that. But this little piece going through my collection, I think, is what I'm actually going to use for the knife that I'm going to do this week. This one right here, you'll notice that it actually has a portion where a tine was already cut off, and I kind of went through here with a black marker just to mark it out. And even though that's got a hell of a bend to it, I can actually straighten this whole thing out. I've got a process that I use, and it takes about a week, but it works pretty darn well. So we'll see. But that's the handle that I would like to use, or the material that I would like to use for this week's hunter. And there's going to be something kind of cool that I'm going to either announce on Thursday or Friday to go along with this week's knife project. So, but more on that later. I figure I'll just keep people waiting. So I'm going to put this in a place where I know I'm not going to lose it, aka I'm going to go clutter up Nate's leather bench. Just put it right there. Oh, sorry, I've got a bunch of snaps sitting there. I finished up one of last week's knives. I'm actually wearing it right now. Let's see, it's got a nice big handle on it, very big knife. It's huge. But so here in the forge, got everything up to temperature. And I've got a semi billet. Well, I've got all the pieces of a semi billet tack welded together. Just gonna hit it with some flux. And back into the heat, bring it up to welding temperature. Had to switch to my glasses yesterday. I think I actually got something in my eye. It's kind of worked its way down. So, needless to say, wasn't in severe pain, but definitely feeling something a little odd there. Now, I guess I don't need this. Thanks, Nate. You know, you're only what, 2 years younger than me? But thank you so much for finding my safety clip-ons. I have these spring-loaded. They fit right on top of my glasses, if you can see them there. For anybody interested. Yeah, they're yellow tinted lenses, but they're safety lenses, and they just I'll take my glasses off. They just, since they're spring loaded, they just load like an armature there, snap right onto my glasses. And then I don't have to worry about scratching up my good lenses. Now I realize that everyone's going to want a pair of those, so I'm not going to give my source for them just yet. It's my private thing, you know. But I know a guy that does shooting lenses, and I buy like 5 pairs a year off of them because they're relatively cheap, and they just snap onto your lenses or clamp onto your lenses, and you know, if something bad happens to it, throw it out, grab another pair. Main reason I'm not going to say anything about who I get them from is because I can't remember the guy's name off the top of my head because, as Nate just said, I'm getting old. But our billet looks like it's coming up to temperature. And so I'm going to just run it through the press one time just to set the weld. And now, because this is an antler handled knife, it's also going to end up being a partial tang or a hidden tang or a stick tang or a rat tail tang. Whatever moniker you want to throw onto it, it is not going to be a full tang knife. Not that you can't do a full tang knife with an antler. I've definitely done it. I've seen many other people do it as well. But with a lot of the whitetail tines that we get around here, again, you know, they really have to be of a decent size. And then shaping them down, you can really lose a lot of the figuring of that. So it depends on how rustic you want it to be or whatever. But and you also have to look at the pith depth, and there's a few factors that go on. So I'm just going to start the hydraulic press. knock some of that extra flux off of there. Brush some of the scale off. I'm just going to lightly flex this. We're turning it around. Looks like the weld set though all in one heat. The way it was cooling down seemed nice and even. Today's one of those weird days where a flannel shirt really seemed nice walking down here. Now I do have the fans going, or at least one of the fans going. Should probably get this one going. Need to make a pin for that wheel so it doesn't fall off. Not that we move it all that much. But the fan's going in here, the flannel's not too bad, but it's only like, I think it's like 72 outside. And rainy, the humidity's really high. Doesn't even look like the ducks are out. Looks like they're playing it smart. So I found something interesting today. Nate, you'll probably like this. I'll go back to the back room and grab it. Get myself prepared. So I walked in and I put glue traps down earlier this week. And I'm going to have to clean this guy again. However, oh, come on, buddy. I don't want you being stuck in there. But I walk into the shop this morning, and I found this little guy stuck to one of the glue traps. So I've been periodically washing him off with a mild detergent just to try to break the glue down, but nothing that'll hurt him. Little garter snake trying to dissolve some of the glue. Sorry you got all involved in that. But yeah, found a little snake here in the shop today. Those glue traps really work for mice, but I guess they also work for garter snakes. But just trying to get some of that off his belly. And of course, because he was in the glue, he ended up picking up metal shavings and all sorts of stuff. But he's a friendly little guy. Maybe I'll leave him in the cool off bucket for you, Nate. Definitely doesn't mind being handled. Just wow, what a mess. And if I can save him, I will. So, but yeah, there's our cool little garter snake I found today. Hey, Mark. Just talking about the garter snake I found stuck to a glue trap here in the shop. It's getting to be fall, so glue traps are a must with the mice problems around here. Living right, having the shop right next to the woods. But I didn't expect to find a snake in the glue trap. And I had a pet garter snake as a kid, so I'm kind of partial to them. They're good. Yeah, very very carefully I got them off the glue trap, and so now I'm holding on to them for a little bit, uh, periodically washing them off with a little bit of mild detergent. Took me about 20 minutes to get them off the damn trap though. So, but yeah, I'm gonna just periodically wash them off with that detergent and see if I can get as much of the glue off as possible. Um, last thing I want to do is release them into the wild and have them get stuck on a stick or something and then just die. So I'm going to go over to the hammer here and just start drawing this down a little bit. Yeah, they really are not meant to allow things to come off of them again. I will make sure to pick them all up before I bring my dog down to the shop, that's for sure. She can really make a mess of them. But before I go touching my face and stuff, make sure I clean my hands off. I figure mice aren't that bright, so if there's a snake hanging around the shop, and it looks like he's actually living underneath our leather workbench under the concrete floor, because I saw him yesterday stick his head up as I walked into the shop, and was like, "Oh, look." I didn't even think, "Oh, I hope he doesn't get stuck to the glue trap." But mice aren't exactly the brightest in the world, so if they see a snake, I think they're pretty much often afraid of them. Yeah, I could imagine. That's the first thing I see happening with Finley is bring her down here. She'll put her nose or bury her head right into the glue trap. I can just imagine what kind of a mess that'll make. Hello, our friend from Indonesia. Finally caught the beginning of a stream. So with this piece, I'd really like to get a 6-inch blade out of this. And in order to do a 6-inch blade, um, which is still a little on the large size for this particular knife, I'll be happy with 5.5. But if I have a little bit of extra working room, let me just mark this out on the anvil. Yes, Nate's back home in Jersey for the time being. We'll be back up here this week. So that's 6 inches, and take it just to the very end. I'm putting 2 marks on the anvil, just so I can see. Broke my lead there. Just so I know that I'm giving myself enough material. But I know that from here to the first line is 6 inches, and to the second line is 7 inches. And that's a good goal for me to get to on this particular piece. The only thing about using these clip-on safety glasses, boy, they double the weight of your glasses. So back over to the hammer, just draw it out a little bit more. So right there, I just passed the 6-inch mark. And I just brought the steel down to close to 3/16 of an inch in thickness. Now, obviously, I'm going to taper this a lot more. I may have given myself a little bit too much material. Just kind of calculating on the fly. I started out with a 4.5-inch billet. Saying that not because, I'm putting an instruction out there. I'm actually building in a reference into this video for when I say, oh shit, I need to repeat this. I have a mark on my face, or is that just... I think I got some schmutz on there. Oh well. So the nice thing about doing these live streams is if I have a question for myself, I can kind of go back and watch. So it's a little bit more heat on that. So one more time with the drawing dies. Okay. Now on the next sheet, I'm going to go through on the flat side just to smooth everything out. Well, at least it looks like the rain stopped. So now I really just want to get this billet to the point that I can start forging it down into the knife I want. So I just want to smooth it out, get to a nice thickness. Perfect. Spin it around. Do the other side. So we're about 6.5 inches altogether. Now that I look at it more, I really think that's going to work. So just smooth this other side out. So Nate, how's that other masker doing coming out? You guys missed it. We posted a bunch of stuff on the Instagram account. Having some fun with masks. So the new one you're doing is a full face, right? So one more pass on the opposite side. That looks pretty close. Did you see the Mempo mask? So now we are literally right at 7 inches of usable material. Now before I go any further on that, I'm going to just grind the top edges. I left my material a little proud, meaning I left the nickel steel a little proud on it. And I know that it moves at a different rate. But I don't want any cold shuts in my blade, so I'm going to clean it up. I mean, it's literally just going to take 10 seconds or so. I'm not even going to bother turning off the microphone, but I'm just going to go across the top here. Is Oni the full face one? I don't know if Nate's paying attention or not right now. Yes, he is. But I know Mempo is half the face, and then there's is it Kempo that's just the chin and lower down to like a gorget. At least that's what we call it in European armor. That's all it took. I just wanted to clean off the top. I want that as smooth as possible, so I'm not creating any sort of cold shut when I forge this down. I don't care about the very ends. I know how I forge, but everything looks pretty even. I didn't dig in there at all. And just in case you're wondering, yes, you can go ahead and grind that stuff while it's hot. I obviously didn't let it cool down. Okay. Now there is a very specific Japanese word for the full face and the 1/3, chin and lower as well. And the name is just escaping me right now. Probably because I don't speak Japanese fluently, nor do I pretend to on a regular basis by watching, Japanese programs on Netflix or anything like that. Maybe I should. Maybe I should really pick up the whole Japanese thing again. I know enough to say thank you for my food at a Japanese restaurant. However, I will say some of those guys that work at Japanese restaurants, they're not so Japanese. It's a lot of Chinese people owning Japanese restaurants in this area anyway. So you'd be better off with Mandarin or even Cantonese. So I just want to see how this forges. I'm going to start my tip before flipping it around. And then obviously I've got to draw out the tang on this, or at least separate the area that's going to be the tang. So hence the reason why I'm bringing out the guillotine tool. And I can switch tongs. Yes, especially trying to translate things like sarcasm. Sarcasm doesn't work so well in Japanese, or at least our American sarcasm doesn't work all that well. So I just started bringing that down just a hair. Now I'm going to go back and just mark out what's going to be tang and what's going to be blade. Mark, we get enough people from other countries joining in on the stream here, and I'm always amazed at how good their English is compared to you know me trying to read German or Dutch or Tagalog or whatever you have. Like it's just like left-handed people. You know, left-handed people always piss you off because you try to show something right-handed, and just to accommodate, you're like, well, here's how I would do it left-handed. They watch you struggling for a little bit, and they say, well, if it's really that much of an issue, I can just do it right-handed. Which no right-handed person has ever said that. Like, oh, if it's really much of an issue, I'll just do it left-handed. But I guess when you grow up in a world where certain things are the norm, Ototakimasu. That's the extent of my fluent Japanese. Um, so there you can see in the camera. I'll move it a little further south, but you should be able to see where I'm collaring it out. So this is all going to be from here down. This is all tang, and the rest of that is going to be blade. And I know there's a pretty heavy weld at the very tip there, so I'm not going to go. Trying to think how I want to handle that. I'm probably just going to end up losing about 3/8 of an inch of that blade. There's a lot of people like that. Did you go to a Catholic school? Because those nuns were really good about being left-handed people into right-handers. I went to a private Protestant school, so we didn't have nuns. So I think I'm just going to do a classic drop point style knife here. We were poorish as well, but only because mom insisted that I go to a private school, and as a single mom, that meant she worked all the time just to put me in school. So, mom, I know you occasionally watching this. Thank you so much for your sacrifice. I'm sorry that I've disappointed you in so many other ways, but I appreciate my schooling. So back to drawing down that tip. So that's 6 inches of blade right there. Hi, Jurgen. How you doing? I'm actually going to pop my safety lenses off of here. I will risk my regular glasses. Just what I'm doing right now, they kind of bounce around. Oh, Mark, she absolutely loved the knife. I'm hoping it's her favorite knife now. It ought to be. Can't complain. It's another rainy day here in Pennsylvania, so and all the leaves are changing color now. I'm looking. I'm looking out back at the woods behind the shop, and everything's going yellow and red. So fall is really coming in pretty quick. It's going to be a pretty day for sitting in the tree stand on Saturday morning for the hour or so that I get to do it. But if I get to, I don't know. We've got a game that I've got to bring a computer up for Nate to the house. That way he has something to game on. Going to be all sorts of fun stuff. But yeah. Anyway, so but we're gaming on Friday night. So maybe that means I will slack off a little early, go get a nap Friday afternoon, start playing around 9, and just not go to bed. Grab my bow and head out to the tree stand. Who knows? So let's bring this down to a nice point. Whoop. The brush came off the anvil there. Paying attention to my dimensions. And I'm going to do something I don't normally do. But I mentioned that very tip, and I just want to knock it off there. Oop. Yes, Mark, that's because we're nerds. Apparently my camera got bumped hard enough that it reset itself, so we'll see if it actually catches up to everything. Hi, Jeff. I'm just going to trim off this little tip here. That should take care of any cold shuts. And that was only about 3/16 of an inch that I'm losing on that billet. So while that's reheating, I go over to the control panel, find my I didn't know that camera was so sensitive. Pull it up here. Okay, well it sees me. Check my IP address. That should be right. Yeah, it's supposed to get a little heavier around, I guess around now. I don't know what time it is right now. It's at around 2 o'clock or so. It's supposed to get a little heavier here. Okay, let me just try a cool little trick. Aha. I think. Now I just need to readjust that. Luckily, I have the camera controls built right onto my phone. So let's take it down a notch. Now let's go down a little bit more. There we go. Should give you a nice view. Yeah, I can't wait until it starts snowing, Jeff. Then I can have all the doors in the shop open and be really comfortable. Alright, so now we're just going to finish bringing this tip down to our point. Cool. So now we're down to a point. You see that? Main thing is I just really want those briars to die off. I was out checking a potential spot for a stand back behind the property, a little further back than I normally go, and wow, was I all cut up. So that caused me to, and Nate will be happy to hear this. Where did I put it? Well, Nate, I finished the big damn knife, but I don't remember where I set it down. Thought it was right here on this plasma cutter. That's not a place to put your crap ever. Oh well, I'm sure I'll stumble across it here in a minute or two, but I'm not actually looking for it. Nice, Mark. What are you planning on getting? So I'm going to run this under the power hammer and just pull down my distal taper. So if you're finally allowed to order stuff, I guess that means the move is pretty much considered complete, even though you'll probably end up having things, if you're anything like me, you'll still have things in boxes 3 years later, because that's just kind of the way things work. And now that's really going to bother me. Where did I put that? Where did I put that knife? I didn't put it outside here, did I? Nope. Everything's good on that front. I didn't use it yet today. I was planning on it until I realized it was going to rain. Oh well, it's just nice to step outside for a moment. Oh, I bet you I put it with the table stuff. That totally makes sense. Good choices. I highly recommend going with even heat. They've got some nice nice kilns for the shop. So there we go. Relatively straight edge. A little bit of a curve in there, but I'm not too worried about that right now. Now, because this is San Mai, I'm going to be careful about how I pull these bevels down. I'm really just going to pull them down slightly so I can grind a little bit more. I want to grind a little bit more of that blade away. It's just an artistic choice, I guess. Standing in front of this fan feels really good, though. I know. It's my fault that I actually wore a flannel shirt down to the shop today. But in my defense, it seemed like it was actually going to be pretty cool without checking the weather. So yeah, I finished. Nate, I finished this little guy. This is the one I misplaced. So give you an idea. It's about 19 inches overall length. So is that about 380 millimeters? Somewhere around there. But this is for cleaning up my shooting lanes if I need to. And also just to get through all the briars out back. I mean, we've got some thorns that are pretty darn impressive, that's for sure. I forged that one out a while ago. Then Nate saw it. I hadn't put a handle on it just yet. So I finally decided to cut a little of this wood called Zeracote. And turned out it's a really nice handle for what I'm using it for. Although I'm sure Nate's already got it sold to someone, so I just need it for another 2 weeks. That's all. 2 more weeks. Just because I don't know how things are going to work with the rain, and I want to continue forging live tomorrow, and then you're up here Thursday, Friday. We've got other stuff to do. Probably go live again. I'm going to switch to a lighter hammer for a little bit. Go back to my Japanese style hammer. All right, Mark, we'll see you in 30. So I'm just going to work on that. I want a really nice, clean bevel. But I want it to start essentially 2/3 up the blade. So I'm really paying attention to the angles that I'm hitting at. Jeff, that's why I shoot with a crossbow. If I throw my shoulder out, holding that bow like this all the time, well, that just puts me out of commission for work. So, since we are legally allowed to use crossbows here in Pennsylvania, that's what I use. That reminds me, I need to sight my crossbow in. just to make sure. Change your batteries in my scope. So I use a red dot scope or green dot. You can change. Just coming in from the opposite side. Kind of clean that up a little. I don't often forge from this side, but with this, I'm not really pulling it down so thin. Pulling it down about half the thickness of what I normally would. I've actually got a nice taper going on there as well. So we're going to do one more pass under the power hammer. I have a rope cock for mine, so I don't have to grab it with my hands. I just literally put it down and step up, and the rope pulls it into place. But it makes it really nice. I can reload in my tree stand very, very easy. I missed a deer early season last year, and I had it recocked in about a second and a half. So I had everything laid out where I need it. I've also got one of those tree stands made for fat guys, or I guess it's actually made for two people, but it's much more comfortable to sit in one of those than it is those skinny little ones. So I'm just going to do a pass under the power hammer on the blade, and then I'm pretty much done with the blade portion of it. I think that's about where I want that. Make sure it's nice and straight, get any twists out of it. Double check my edge. That looks good. So now that I've got the blade portion done, I need to come back and do my hidden tang. Again, this is actually going on an antler, which you can kind of see. It's back on the leather bench back here. I hold it up, maybe you can see it on the camera there. A little higher. Hard for me to see from this angle. But that's, you look at the middle camera, that's the antler that's marked for this knife. I'm not sure if I'm going to do a ferrule or, I don't know. I've got to plan that out. That'll be later tonight. I'm going to do some sort of ferrule, but I don't know if it's going to be like a really thick bronze ferrule, or if I had the pewter, I know I have it somewhere. I had the pewter, I'd actually do an old style, like Revolutionary War style, where I actually cast the pewter directly onto the antler. That's always really cool. So, edge up. Just starting to draw that tang down. And I know that I'm going to double check on my antler here. Just kind of want to look at the thickness of the pith on it. Okay, so I have a 1/4 inch pith on the top side, or 1/4 inch of sidewall down to the pith. So I'm going to find a 1/4 inch stop. I know I have somewhere around here. I think there's one over on the hydraulic table. Yep. Just use a magnet to secure that. I don't know if the magnet will work all that well, but that's what I have laying around. It's not perfect, but it does work. Get a little bit more heat on that. So now I wonder if I have a better way. I mean, I could always put a hardy hole on this. Oh, you know what? I do have a better way of doing this. It's not spaced out exactly the way I want it, but it is actually the right tool for the job. So you find the right side. So this is the side I want towards me. This is called a radius block. Never seen one. Put it down in the info cam for you. That's a radius block, and that just fits right here into my hardy hole. That's going to give me a really nice sharp transition. All the fun little tools. Some of you even forget you have. Good. So I'm about half the length that I want for that tang. So I'm just going to take it over to the power hammer. I want to thin it down first on the flat side, and then I'll pull a taper out. I fully expect that I'm going to have to cut and grind this tang to meet the sizes that I want. I just haven't measured that stuff out yet, and I have certain sizes that I keep in mind depending on all the different variables that go into the antler itself. Obviously, I use the power hammer a lot because I have it, but I can literally do this with another 10 minutes just doing it by hand, but why? I got some nice shoulders on there. And I'll go back and straighten all this up before I let it cool down. When I'm done forging here, I may even, prior to even grinding this blade, I may actually do the annealing process on it just to make sure that it's soft enough. I don't have to, but I could. It's not like there's anything else I can do outside, so I guess I could just let it cool down enough to do it by hand. Maybe I can get this all heat treated before I sign off today. Make it a long stream for once. So I pulled a little bit of a distal taper out of that as well. Now I'm just going to clean it all up with a hand hammer. I'll leave that stop block there just in case I need it. I don't think I will, though. Okay, so let's clean this tang up just a hair. Bring it into alignment with the spine. I don't need to nitpick too much about that. But that's a decent tang for what we're working on. There is a general rule as far as length of tang versus blade. Yet again, something else I should go into do for the Patreon account. So I'm just going to straighten everything out, make sure I don't have any twists in the blade. Get rid of that top block. Gonna turn my gas pressure down. I don't need it as high as it is. Got a nice heat going on in there. So I just want to make sure that I have a nice, consistent heat. You know, Jurgen, you mentioned Quillian daggers. I've been thinking about, I really kind of want to do one again. It's been a while. I'd like to do with a nice spiral pattern on the wood. Just been one of those things where, you know I need to challenge myself to work on it. It's a couple of skills that I don't use anymore as far as that's concerned. Just challenging myself to the woodworking. everything else that goes along with it. I think it'd be kind of cool. Overall, pretty happy with this blades so far, or thus far. I mean, the beauty of this is going to really come out in, the finishing and the etching. So now, because my tang's a lot thinner than my blade, I'm actually going to take any sort of twist I see here in the blade. Just want to make sure it's all nice and straight. The spine looks great. Just a little bit of a twist that bothers me. You leave it in there, it's going to go ahead and really make itself stand out when you do your heat treat. So few extra taps. I used to be, I just don't do that stuff anymore. So, I mean, started getting back into it, 2 years ago. But with the whole COVID thing, our biggest outlet for that stuff, that's what I was kind of looking forward to doing a lot of this past summer. But with COVID, I didn't want to make stuff, waste the steel, and just have it sitting around when that's not my primary market. My primary market is outdoorsmen and chefs. So, well, that's cheaper than our other place, Nate. I think they want 67. But either way, I mean, that's a hell of a deal because they wanted, you're saying for a side, last Friday when we were up there, didn't they want 139 for a side? So that's more than half price plus our discount. Just want to double check this before I let it cool down. Yeah, I'm pretty sure, Nate, the sides I was looking at on Friday were about 140. So good. So I'm just going to go straight into grinding this. I'll get my grinder set up. As soon as I can touch it with my hands, might as well go ahead, profile it, get my bevels down. Marshall, if you're lurking, we talked about this past weekend. Show you how fast I do a blade. There's someone else that Oh, Jeff, I definitely order my steel. There there is no one reputable locally for blade steel. And some of the stuff I have found, I've found stuff for like doing tomahawks and stuff like that from my local machinist. Um, Now I will say I've got a guy who's got a really nice reserve of W1 and W2 that I can just go down and buy a bar or two off of him if I want. But he's a machine shop. Now I don't know, you might be able to find a spring shop that actually knows what grade of steel they're using, but at the same time, they're going to want to charge you an arm and a leg for what you can order it for. Uh, a lot of people here on the East Coast are using New Jersey Steel Baron. I mean, a lot of people all across the country are using it as well, uh, and people in other countries. Take a look outside for a moment. Got a nice breeze blowing down through here. All in all, fairly comfortable. Take a moment while that's cooling down to clean my belts off. Almost there. About another 2 minutes. We'll be good to go ahead. That. While I'm looking at it, I'm going to measure this out quick. Let's see what we have. I think I got much more blade than I actually wanted for this, but is that such a huge problem? Now, by the time it's all said and done, we're at about 7.5 right now, but I need to clean up the shoulders. So we'll bring that back to about 7.25, I think, to clean up those shoulders. Yeah, it's just the problem is that even spring shops, they're not using 1095, they're not using 1080, um, they're not using S110B or whatever 80CRV2. They're using a lot of times things like 9230 or whatever the flavor of the month is the best deal on something that makes a spring. They're not looking at edge retention, things like that. So finding it locally, you're asking for a lot. And even some of the big steel companies that I've gone on and they list things such as 1095, specifically on their product offering sheet, and then I call them up and the sales reps don't even know anything about it because not that many people are using it like we are. So I can touch that with my hand. It's not sizzling. Steaming off a little bit, but it's not making any audible noise, which means that we're definitely below 212 degrees. Now I have it in my hand, looks pretty straight. So I'm just going to do a couple of marks here. Just looking at my shoulders. I'm just using a silver pencil to mark this stuff down. I'll do my best to line it up on the other side, just so I have a reference. Alright, so I'm going to start with my shoulders on this. Huh. I'm going to get the tang where I want it. Try to get those shoulders as even as possible. I think that's close enough for government work for now. Just shape that out. So now I have my tang where I want it. Not necessarily the thickness that I want it, but my mindset with the thickness of the tang is I can always be very careful about how I sand it down later. Now I'm going to get my edge. Just cleaning up the profile of this knife. I'm going to bring that tip back just a hair and see where it needs to go. I think we're just going to do a nice flat edge and sweep that tip up. That looks good. Happy with that. Now I'm just going to do the spine. I'm just looking for a nice flat spine. Kind of has a nice easy transition into my drop point. Clean that up just a touch. Make sure I'm even. I don't want to be skewed one way or the other. Looks good. So far, I'm happy with that. So that's how that blade is profiling out. Let's check our length. And now we're just, by the time everything's said and done, probably be about 6¼ inches, which is kind of what I said I wanted in the first place. So I'm going to clean up the surface, get some of that scale off. I don't need to go too hog wild with this, just because after heat treat, I know there's going to be a lot more that I have to do. I just want to make sure I don't have any deep hammer marks in here. Little superficial marks, that's totally fine for now. I would much rather clean them up with a higher grit. Better. Just want to get along that spine. Good. I'm going to turn that grinder off. Yay, broke yet another magnet. Really need to go back and re-epoxy those things. After about 3 years, they just give up working. Alright, now I'm going to do my bevels. I think I want a decent plunge line on here. Bring them nice and even. So far, so good. I just want to make sure I'm going balanced from the other side. Okay, so decent, consistent thickness. I've just got a little bit of thickness up here at the tip. Just want to address. Good. And last but not least, I'm going to swap over to a higher grip belt and go to 80 on this one, just to get some of those grind lines out, so I can be a little bit more delicate after the heat treat. Let's make sure it's nice and cool. Some of those lateral scratches out. I think we all have one side that we prefer more than the other. I always have a hard time getting decent plunge on the right side of my knife. It's just, that's my bias, you know. I think we all have a bias as far as what we're good at sanding with the grinder and what we're not. One side's always easier than the other. And yes, I'm keeping watch, making sure nobody's actually talking to me. You know, you guys don't have to just talk to me. You can talk to yourselves. I mean, that's what I do before people join me. I mean, talk to each other, not talk to yourselves. That'd be silly. So, just want to switch this belt out onto the horizontal grinder because I'm a creature of habit. I like what I like. Just cleaning up my surfaces, taking any of those deep scratches out. Your hand sanding will thank you a lot for that later. Okay. Check the straightness. Good sharp line across that spine. Perfect. I'm just going to hit my bevels. Kind of blend some of those sharp or hard edges away prior to heat treating. But I can already see my San Mai lines, and so that's really encouraging. They're up almost exactly where I want them. So, pattern on this is going to turn out very nice. one more time along that edge. Ironically, that's where it needs to come up a little bit more. Just to expose that cutting edge where I want it. Better. Still a little close to the edge for my liking. It's really nice and straight. No twists. And only a minor flare out. At that damn tip. If I can get a little bit more depth out of that. Oh, much better. Okay. Very happy with those lines. Okay. Make sure everything is nice, clean, consistent. Clean up my shoulders. Okay. One more pass. Soften that transition up a little bit. Good. See a couple of marks along the spine here that I want to go ahead and get out with this 80 grit. Some deep scratches from that 36. It'll take me forever to get them out by hand if I don't do it now. Cool. So here we go. About, I don't know, maybe 20 minutes of grinding, 15 minutes of grinding. So now our blade is ready for us to mark and to do all of our heat treatment. But if I do it now, I can come back later on tonight and do the really boring sanding stuff while drinking a few beer. Probably won't go live for that. But I can do that stuff off camera. And then tomorrow, because I really only kind of planned to do 2 streams with this. But then tomorrow we can just work on the handle. So I'm going to do my stamp. I'm going to do my stamp horizontally on this one. Running with the spine instead of running with the what do you call that? My God, here I am, I'm blanking. You know, that area right before the choil. Not there's a choil on this knife, but ricasso, that's what I'm thinking. Along the ricasso area of the blade. That's how I've done a couple of knives, like this one right here. You didn't see it yet on Instagram. There's the big antler hunter that I made for myself. Definitely a little heavy, that's for sure. Like I'm gonna have to build up some muscle. All right, Nathan, thanks for joining us. Everyone, will see you on Thursday or Friday. I'll make sure I don't mess up your leather bench between now and then. AKA, I just won't do any leather work. Sooner or later, we're actually going to figure out how to get Nate, how to get a camera going for him, so he can be in Jersey and still part of the live stream. I turned it around the wrong way. I wanted to do it this way on the knife. Sorry, I think I want a little bit more heat on that as well. Hey, it's live. What do you expect? This was a recorded video. I would have just cut that out. I'll get my stamp lined up where I want it. Perfect. Of course, now I have to go back and straighten everything, but minor details. So let's check for straightness going down this way. Just want to double check my edge. Now I know I normally use an aluminum block for cooling everything during my normalizing process, but today I'm going to do something a little different. Just check this edge. Let's use that piece of soapstone. Hold it up against the black. That looks good. That looks good. Double check the tang. I think skewed just a hair, if even. So I'm really just trying to heat up that transition area. I don't even need all that much heat on it. This took a little deflection when I did my touch mark. Good enough. All right. So when I said that I wanted to do something a little different, as far as normalizing my blade goes, show you that in just a minute. You can actually see what I was talking about as far as what the Sanmai looks like. Now, our edge is still, I don't know, a little less than a 1/16 of an inch thick. I always like to give myself a margin there. But what I'm talking about as far as normalizing goes, I've got a really nice, this is what they call a grill brush, real fat bristles on there, but very minimal contact points for it. So I'm gonna lay my piece flat across there. In the meantime, while that's heating up and doing its sciencey stuff, I want to check something else. So I've been working on another project here in the background. So excuse me while I go grab a piece of wood. Finish this out with. But if you have a little bit of patience, I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about here. Just a minute. Good heat. There we go. We'll do our normalization on the wire brush today. my other project, I planned 5 hours on this. We'll see if it works. May not have been quite long enough yet. But I've got some antler that I want to straighten. I'll definitely explain this method in a Patreon video. But it looks like it may be working. We'll see. I'm just going to get rid of all these belts here. Need to go through them later today anyway. I'm just going to grab a scrap piece of wood. It's not wood, but it'll work. Hydraulic press would also work really well for this. I don't want to tie it up. Well, it's going to take some of it out, but I definitely need to go longer on that. By the way, if you're watching along on YouTube, don't forget to like and subscribe. If you're watching along on Twitch, follow us. I swear it can actually be much more entertaining with Nate's here in the shop. But either way, I was going to be doing this work anyway. So I'm very appreciative of everyone who actually joins me for a live stream. Basically, I'd be here talking to myself and still working. So check on Mr. Snake back here. Well, he's sticking his tongue out. I guess that's a good thing. I don't know. Hello, Mr. Rosenberg. How are you? How's work going, sir? Or should we just not talk about the W word? Is it Tuesday? I guess it is. I've been meaning to give you a call, Tim. I heard you're launching soon. That's awesome. I'll have to give you a call once I'm done with all the live streaming stuff for the day. But I'm just normalizing this blade. His left-hand turns are always easier on a bike. What do you think this is, NASCAR? Yeah, it looks like I want to just double check those shoulders, but there's nothing normal. Yeah. Wow, I'll be damned. I'm getting better at that whole evening out shoulders thing. Still nice and straight. This will be our last normalization cycle. Don't need my touch mark anymore. I'm not super worried about this blade as far as coming out straight. I mean, if I was, I would do a full normalization process in the actual kiln, but it does look like I just need a smack right there, that transition. This tang just wants to be funny on me. But the nature of this piece, that tang can be a little crooked. Well, is it like half an hour behind or something? I don't think it can't be. Because Tim just heard me say whatever it is I said to him. Nice clean lines on that. So just to say that I did, I'm going to move this camera. Give a nice bird's eye view of the quench. Grabbing one of my heavier gloves here. Welcome back, Jeff. I want to get that heat a little deeper down the tang. That's the reason why I'm holding this by hand in the fire. I love smoking a little bit. Okay, so now I'm going to go into the quench. Okay, get that scale off. Ah, you missed me normalizing a blade and quenching. But move this camera back where it actually belongs. Weird. For once, everything's healthy on my side, so. But that blade looks nice and straight. So I'm happy with that. Gonna get this into the kiln for tempering. Get my ceramic pins where they need to be. And go ahead and select my cycle. Cool. So that is in the oven. Now I can grab that piece of antler. So it's 3:07 right now, which means that this piece took me about 2 hours from billet to blade all the way through heat treating. Just 2 little hours. Not bad. And again, here's the, you look in the anvil cam. So this is the piece of antler I'm going to be using. And it's right around 3¼ inch circumference, right there. So that makes it really nice and comfortable. The only thing I need to figure out then is what I'm doing as far as, am I doing a ferrule on this, which I think that's what I'm leaning towards. But I have to find the appropriate size material for it. I may just go with like a 3/16 inch thick ferrule on this. I think that'd be kind of nice. But there we have it. That is that's pretty much what I was planning on for today's live stream. So thank you guys very much for watching. Get rid of my trash. Good shot. It's almost cold enough that I can start firing up the wood stove. Just tossing my paper towels in there. Found that a roll of shop towels on my steak anvil there is really nice. I don't tend to walk into it as often now, so I can actually see the Bic on it. But yeah, anyway, guys, thanks again for watching. Remember to like and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. Follow us if you're on Twitch. tell your friends, whatever. We'll be continuing this tomorrow with a little bit of handle work and finishing up the knife. I may even do some leather work. Who knows? But again, guys, appreciate every single one of you being here, and tune in tomorrow. Take care.
Have not